Hey everybody, and welcome to Tales from the Fog. I'm your host Casey, and with us once again is the amazing Veronica, now with 40% more tightrope walking. How are you doing, Veronica?
My feet hurt. Thank you for asking. And then joining us today, we have a very special guest. You may know him as Seaweed. He is a very prominent member of the Decayed Brigade, and he's also a very well-known Not Scary Farm monster and slider. And with us today, we have Greg Daniels.
Hi everybody.
Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you, Greg.
Thank you for having me. It was cool.
So let's start off. How did you get into Halloween? What led you to enjoying the Halloween season?
Believe it or not about me, when I was growing up, like as a kid, I used to hate Halloween, and it used to scare like the living crap out of me. So, I don't know. It's kind of like one day I was watching a horror movie. I think it was Exorcism of Emily Rose, actually. And I kind of fell in love with it, and then I got really obsessed with it. And then, actually, like I used to go to Scary Farm all the time as a guest when I was like 12, 13. And the first time I ever went, I couldn't go past the front gate. Like I was so scared, and I stayed at the front gate for 8 hours. And some of my friends were like, "Why did we bring you?" And I was like, I don't know. And then I went another time by myself. I'm my only child, and kind of walked around, went through all the mazes, and I was like fell in love with it. So that was kind of like my spark. And then also watching seasons of Scream every day after like middle school, like it was the Bible. Really didn't help either. So that's kind of like my little backstory of how I always just kind of liked Halloween.
That's so cool. That's awesome to hear that seasons of Screams especially was something that was a catalyst for you. Like it's kind of like it was right on the cusp of old school kind of turning into new school. And there was still a lot of the old school influence on scaring and monsters. And it's cool to see that had an impact on the next generation, in this current round of scarers.
Yeah, definitely. Like, Seasons of Scream, I mean, it was like a $10 DVD. Like, I begged my mom for me to get, and then she like surprised me with it one day after school. And I mean, it's so funny to like call a lot of those people in that DVD like friends and like mentors, and like people who I can like call up and hang out with now this day. But I mean, it's so weird knowing that I like looked up to all these crazy like weird people, and now I'm friends with them. And like I really honestly, every time I go up there and like scare people or anything haunt related that I'm doing, I kind of always remember that little kid inside and like keep those traditions and keep like those values that I really learned as like growing up watching like Scary Farm stuff and the DVD and everything.
So how do you think that movie or that documentary in particular formed the monster that you are today?
It kind of gives me that passion. Like it really so it shows me how to respect the event and respect Halloween in itself and the origins of it. And a lot of people have done a lot of stuff before me, and I don't ever want to ruin what they built. And I know like after now being a monster for 7 years, it's a lot, and so there was plenty of talent like in streets way before me, and it used to be an honor to be out there. So I always take that as like a huge chip on my shoulder that I'm still young, but I still remember everything that they worked for to get there.
That's so cool that perspective is still there. They say like the old people go, kids these days have no appreciation for the past and stuff like that. But when you see someone who, 7 years is nothing to shake a stick at. That's a good long time to be involved in that. But
yeah, that's how long I worked the haunt.
Yeah, I was there for 6 years. And so it's like in the full scheme of the haunt, it's not very long. But, it's a good part of your adult life being dedicated to this thing. But like, you're right with how many countless hours have been devoted to this event in particular. It's really cool to see like the next generation, this generation upholding that kind of the tradition and, for what it is.
Yeah.
But at the same time, taking it further, which actually that kind of leads me to the next thing I wanted to ask you. So you saw the kind of the old school ways, the traditional scaring, the traditional sliding. How do you think you've taken that and kind of, pushed the envelope a little bit and pushed the rock up the hill a little bit more and kind of made it your own?
That's a good question. I mean, yeah, the old school way was like very, kind of distant, and it was like in the fog and then out. My kind of style that I wanted to bring it when I started on street was more aggressive and more in your face, because I noticed that they weren't very pushing the like envelope of what they can get away with and what they like how close they can get. So I've always been an athlete my whole life, and I always kind of played with that like little factor, and I always push like shoulder slides or more guest interaction. You can see my prosthetic, or you can see like my detail, my like face or my eyes or whatever I'm wearing, and it really translates more to guests. They see a character, they don't go see a black figure and like fading out in the fog. So I've always respected like sliding and the way you scare, but I always just felt if I was more aggressive, push the envelope a little more and give people a little more kick that they were missing, like from the old school days.
I would agree with that. I'd say that the style was much more spooky, like more kind of lurchy and like akin to fog creeping across the ground, as opposed to like the monsters from 28 Days Later.
Yeah.
Being a mile away and then in your face 2 seconds later.
I think that has changed a lot over the years, mainly because the scare tactics, when Knots started, nobody really knew what they were doing, and so it's kind of like everybody was learning on the job. And so, it's definitely evolved every single year. You see new things coming out, all kinds of different scare tactics, like thunder jugs. Those never existed before. People were just like, kind of took the shaker can and was like, I can do something better than that. And that's how the thunder jug came up,
Well, from what I understand about the thunder jug, it was Chopper and he was bored. He was at work and he was like, I think I can make something with this. And then the thunder jug was born. But that's how, that's innovation. That's taking something that, first of all, taking something for which it was never intended, turning it into something new. But then, we, as monsters, there's, I want to know if you feel like this too, Greg, but there's like, your scare evolves with the guest. You kind of, it's like some tactics will work on some nights, some will work on other nights. Some tactics will work for whole seasons that won't work for another season. I mean, with 7 years, that's plenty of time to see kind of the wax and wane of the guest and see how they've evolved, over that.
Definitely. I mean, there's like on slow nights. I mean, sometimes you have to get deeper in a character and lose yourself as a person, because on busy nights you really can't develop that character because you're going 110 miles per hour and you're going against like 45,000 guests. Mm-hmm. But when it's only about 10,000 guests, you really get to portray something that you've been working on for a full year, essentially. And like the guests, they have evolved. Like in my past 7 years, they're a lot different now. So it's different to like read your crowd and see what they're like and see how they're feeling. So it really pushes you to and also using like your whole element, like the fog, the wood, the rocks that are just kind of there for day offs. Maybe you get on one of them and start, singing a tune or something. But it's just easy little things that get in people's head, like gets into people's head.
Yeah, definitely. And like it's all every night's going to be different, but it's kind of neat to see how how people choose to what monsters they are on slow nights versus busy nights, or like the inevitable 10 o'clock douchebaggery that tends to happen when the crowd turns. Like, what kind of monster are you then versus at rope drop and all that fun stuff. That's really cool.
So let's talk about your first year at Haunt. Did you go straight to streets or were you in any mazes?
My first year of Haunt actually was in a ride. So I was in the Calico Mine Ride, and I was in the the bubbling room. It's the first room that you go and do the ride. I was called the pot room actually, and I was in there for about 2 weeks, and then I had a kind of a supernatural experience happen to me, and I was kind of like not about being inside anymore, so it moved me to the exit of the maze or the ride or whatever, and I was the exit monster. So technically, I've always been on streets if you want to get technical with it, but not really, you know? So, yeah.
So then after that year, did you go to streets the next year?
Yeah, after that year, I went on to Carnival in 2011.
So what happened to you inside the ride?
So one night, there was only two of us in that room, and it was like a Thursday, and the girl, Kelsey, I'll never forget this, her name was Kelsey, she went on break, and I kind of felt, we used to be tethered to the ride, and so we couldn't run into the train or anything like that, so we wouldn't get injured. So one day, I was going, and my tether snapped, and I was like, oh, that sucks, maybe like the rock, like, caught it, and it just snapped, because I went flying into the train. I was like, oh, that was kind of weird. So I called my TC, and then came up with a tech, and he was like, all right, well, we're going to be, like, the shorter tether, so it can't, like, break or anything like that. And I was like, all right, cool. So an hour goes by, Kelsey's still not there, my tether breaks again. And they were like, yo, what's going on? I was like, I have no idea. They're like, all right, you'll be untethered, just don't go past this line. And so I was like, cool. So train goes by, scared. I turn around and I see this like lady standing there in like a black coat and just looking at me, and I just got chills like down my spine right now actually, and like she was staring at me. So I turned around like just freaking out, and then I looked back and she was gone. And then there's a stairway going up to the glory hole actually, and so there's no way anyone can go up or down in a matter of like 2 seconds or less. So
Whoa.
I ran and I looked up and she was gone, and I was like, yo, I need to get out of here. Like,
oh my God. That's crazy. Yeah, you're not the only one that I've heard that worked the mine train that has stories like that. And actually, tethers breaking has been a thing that I've heard from other monsters that have worked the train rides. So that's interesting.
Wow. Yeah, it's super weird. I mean, it's like a metal tether. Like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, I mean, I'm not a big guy. I'm only 5'8", so, and back in the day, you know, a lot skinnier. So there's no way it should have broke, you know?
Yeah.
That's incredible. So when you had to have the discussion of, I don't want to work in this area anymore, please put me somewhere else, like, how did that go?
They kind of, because I don't know, it was kind of weird. They knew I was like a strong monster, and he was kind of like, well, we can try this room, but you know what? Let's try you outside to see how you do, like, just to end the night. And actually got a compliment from the cast lead of Carnival that following night, and they were like, yeah, you're staying out there the rest of the season. Like, you're not...
Nice.
Yeah,
that's
so
cool.
They actually changed my costume, changed everything I was wearing, and it was actually kind of cool.
That's an honor.
That is, yeah.
And it's a big deal. I mean, I'm hoping that it's evolved since then, but for a while there was a real stigma about maze monsters being outside and, like, encroaching on the turf of the streets. Is stupid. I've always thought that was stupid, but it was a real thing.
Yeah.
So for a TC to be like, dude, that guy's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's huge.
Yeah, like back in the day, I really had no idea how like big that was. I was kind of like, oh, thanks. Like, I'm just, you know, scaring people because I like to be here. Like, I had like, not to mention, I had, you know, these giant dicky jeans and this haggard like flannel with an old miner white man mask, and like you can see the whole back of my head and my neck. And it was god awful. Like, no steel toe, no nothing. Just I had like my dad's Clarks on. I think like 2 cents for me. Yeah, I will never forget that. Oh yeah, it was bad. So I honestly used what I got, and I used to use a shaker can. So that was funny.
Yeah.
You gotta use a shaker can at least once in your life. That's really cool. So then, I don't remember, did you have to audition back when it was 2012, or were you just given a spot?
Oh, no, I had to audition.
Okay.
I auditioned for Craig, Ian, and somebody else, so I don't know who the third person was.
That's neat. So did you go in specifically saying, I want to be on straights, or were you just saying, like, I'll take whatever?
Actually, well, the story behind it, me getting on streets is I met a group of weird kids that summer after Hot 2010, and we were like these flat ear practitioners, and they actually want to be my closest friends and still are to date. So we all went to audition, and we all were made the year before, and they were like, oh, we should audition together. So we all went one at a time, and it was like a draft board, and they were like, Carnival. So it was my turn, I was the last one, and then I was like, I want to go to Carnival, and they were like, I don't know, and then I that's like did good in my audition, and the rest is history.
Neat.
Nice.
So they kind of like lead you on, like, yeah, I don't know if you're ready. Oh, just kidding. You can go to Carnival.
They're kind of like, who are you? Like, it's kind of like that. It's like in between when you're like amazed talent trying to go to streets where they don't really know your work ethic or anything like that. So.
Yeah, that's neat.
So, your first night going out on streets how was it different from your first night working haunt?
All right, my first night ever on streets, it was obviously deer in the headlights. Like I had no walls. I was a character I'd never played before. I was in a bright area. I was a clown, and I was kind of like, well, let's see what to do. And honestly, I did not know how to scare anyone. Like the first hour, like I didn't know how to scare. Just kind of like doing a boo and like like those generic scares. But my first year in a maze, my first time ever working haunt, I had walls, I had a tether. I was super excited. I was like ready to scare people, and yeah, I mean, it was just kind of came naturally. But maybe because I was in an enclosed setting, and it kind of gave me like the vibe and everything like that.
Mm-hmm. And it's safe too when you know where the guest is going to be. You know the timing. You have a place to retreat. Like it's a really safe place. But when you're out on the streets, like there's nowhere to hide. Especially a place like Carnival, it's lit more than any other scare zone. So there's no place to go.
There was no walls. Carnival was so bright, and people could see you coming from a mile away. So that was really hard.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of neat that you have that opportunity to go there first, though, because it forces you to use tactics that you wouldn't be able to use in any maze. You know, you're just out in the open, and if you can still floor someone when they've been watching you for the past 10 seconds, like, you've got your skills.
Yeah, you definitely, like, for me in Carnival, it seems like you definitely have to kind of use guests as, like, you're blocking, so you're, like, kind of stalking behind guests, looking in front of them for people.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, there was plenty of times I used people as, like, shields and, hide behind, like, the games that were, like, around the area or hide behind a trash can. Like, it was basically playing, like, post-apocalyptic, but with people,
So your first year on Carnival, had you started sliding yet?
No, I was not allowed to even touch the floor. I had to have red X's on my path.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's right. I remember the
slider in training.
Yeah. Like, you can use these, you can fall, just don't go anywhere.
Yeah, they were like, you can crawl, but if we see any of the tape come off, you're not allowed to, like wear your pads again. So I was like, oh, I'm never touching the floor.
Yeah, they're pretty serious about that. I think something that is underestimated is the risk involved to the guests and the monsters when a monster isn't ready.
Yeah, like I think that's true.
Because there's more to being a monster than just sliding, which if you've worked there, you understand. But as a guest, you might not know that. There's monsters and there's sliders. But, I mean, it's a complicated skill being a monster in general. And then adding sliding to that, you really need that year to get your bearings.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's kind of the best I can describe, like, the red X's. And when people are like, oh, there's sliders here, like, slide. I'm like, all right, that's like basically putting a stilt walker who's never walked on stilts before and telling them to run.
That was me.
Good luck.
My first year, I went actually pretty late. It was probably, this is before UltimateHaunt.com, so there wasn't a big push of people trying to get into haunt. So I didn't have, like, me and my friend, literally, we walked into HR and they opened up a book and said, what do you want to do? These are the spots available. But yeah, my first year I ended up, they asked me, can you walk on stilts? And I was like, yeah, I walked on stilts before. So they took me backstage, put some stilts on me. I basically just auditioned only to prove I could walk on stilts. And then they're like, okay, you got it.
So what, when you were going to be a slider, did you do any sort of summer training or anything like that before you did your tests in 2013?
Oh, yeah. Well, my first test was in 2012, actually. So,
okay.
Yeah, like how I mentioned earlier, the slider practice nerds. 2 years before my slider test, I was always at Arnold Cypress Park with all the guys like Eric and Michael Begg and, Tanya and all these crazy, like, there used to be a big, big group of us, like at least 40 people every Friday. And we did that for about 2 years. We used to do like every Monday and Friday. Then if we were really you know, after our first year on streets, we're like, all right, let's get serious. And then that's when we started kind of doing more tricks. And, you know, we used to do the test because people used to run the test, used to come out and be like, this is what it is, so get yourself prepared. Kind of like a pre-course for like driving somewhere, you know, like a driving school. So it's like a sliding school.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Do they still do that?
Yeah, I mean, there's still a whole bunch of people that go out to Chapman Sports Park I think it's like every Thursday now, or something like that, and, you know, they just kind of do tricks, and they don't really do the test anymore. It's kind of sad, but once, you know, a couple of us who were like the old school guys now, I guess you can call it, we go out there and like run the test with them, so they're prepared for the next year, or prepared before that season to, you know, do the test about 2 weeks after we open.
That's very sweet of you to kind of pass the baton on to the next generation. You know, without that, you know, who knows what the next group's going to have.
Well, I know they've pretty much always left the slide testing up to the monsters, so...
Yeah, it's never really been a sanctioned Knott's Berry Farm thing. So how was the test for you?
It was actually really easy. I don't know, it kind of came natural to me. Like, I felt like I was just sliding at the park with my friends, but now I was in that. You know, it was a super simple test. A lot of people overthought it, and they like overshot it or went too slow, or, you know, it's like a DMV driving test. They like went too fast or go too slow, and this was a critical error, and like, what if you hit this gas, you know? So if you just kind of take it for what it is and act like you're just at a practice shot and fun with your friends, it was really simple. Yeah,
and what people don't know is how much endurance. I mean, it takes endurance to be a monster in general, but sliding for sure. You know, it's not something you can just show up the first night of haunt and just start sliding. It's something you really have to work up to.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, definitely. People really, you know, they see a slider and they're like, oh, that's cool, they did a thing. And you're like, man, you don't know how much that just took out of me.
Yeah.
That's so true. But the test doesn't, like, they don't make you run a mile and then time you.
Yeah.
You know, they only test, can you stand up, can you stop?
Yeah, the test you got like maybe 20 feet, if that. Yeah. But that's like doing different drills at the same time.
Mm-hmm. It is very simple. When I took the test, I had anxiety over, am I going to make it? All I wanted to do was slide and do all this stuff. And so I was one of those people who was unnecessarily spooked about doing this whole epic test in front of like these epic monsters. And they're like, shut up, you passed, go away.
Okay. Oh, yeah,
Thank you.
Like, same here. Like, when I took my test, I had, like, literally the legends of Haunt just standing there, you know?
It's intimidating.
Like, the people that everyone knows. Like, it was like, I had Paul Frechette, Alex was there, Tweak, Bizarre, Cody, who else was there? Jeff Starr was there. And I was like, man, I know who all you guys are. It's before they even, like, before we met as friends. And I was like, I don't know, you guys probably, like, hate me.
No.
I had the same thing because when I started sliding, it was Wade, who was the goblin, and then it was Daryl, Haystack, I can't even remember who else was there.
Was Dietz there?
Dietz was there. Somebody else, too.
The old crew.
Yeah, it's very intimidating.
What's neat, though, is that those are the people who were featured in the Seasons of Screams video.
Yeah.
Like, that's you know.
Yeah, pretty much those people that were in the video were the people that were standing there when I did the test.
Or at least the sliding segment of, you know, that part.
Yeah.
So Casey and I know that you have, you know, a background in dance and you know, live performance. Were you already doing that when you started as a monster?
When I started as a monster, I actually worked at Tilly's.
Oh, really?
Nice.
The one in.
I worked at a clothing store.
Oh, at Tilly's. Okay, I thought you said Chili's. I'm like, oh, the one down the
I love
street.
Tilly's.
Oh, no, Tilly's like the clothing store, like the clothing brand, yeah.
Ah, getcha. That's cool. So you hadn't started working at Disney yet?
No, I didn't start working at Disney till like my 4th year of Haunt, actually. My 4th or 5th year of Haunt.
Oh, very cool. So you were already physically trained and with all the endurance and everything of being a monster and a slider, you were able to take that to Disney.
I mean, during me being a monster, I actually had a full-ride baseball scholarship at Concordia University in Irvine. So we used to train like crazy. So that was like my stamina, and I translated it to Haunt. So I used to go from class from 9 to 11, and then from 11:30 to about 4, I had practice and weightlifting, and then my clock-in time was at 6:30 at Haunt on like Thursdays through Saturday.
Wow, that's quite a day.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
did you?
It was crazy.
Did you take anything from Disney? Like once you started working at Disney, did anything in your character change?
My flexibility, I'll say, like, I've never been a trained dancer, and, I always used to just kind of dance for fun so girls could like me, honestly, if that's the truth. And, when I got hired at Disney, we had to stretch every single day, and we had to work out with the trainers, and, do all these crazy, like, weird flexible things. I'm not very flexible as a person, but then when I started working there, I got really flexible. So, my flexibility into my character, and then, really being loose and having fun with it. I mean, sometimes people at home take things a little too seriously. So, if you just honestly take, like, the fun aspect of it and throw it in there, it's going to translate a lot better.
Definitely.
Man, that's a lesson I wish every pond monster would know. It's like, if you would just lighten up and have fun, this would be such a better experience for you and for the guests.
Yeah, definitely.
Who would have thunk? So now you're at Scary Farm and you're sliding. At what point did you start getting involved with the Decayed Brigade?
Alright, so, fun fact to be on the Decayed Brigade, I don't know if you guys know this, I have done every show of the Decayed Brigade that's been around.
That's awesome.
That's cool.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I'm the only member. It was me and Spaz, actually, were the last two who have done every single show of the Decayed Brigade, including now the Queen Mary show. Like, ever since the Decayed Brigade run, I've done every single show.
That's cool.
Yeah, so the funny story about the Decayed Brigade, I was on the Decayed Brigade, technically, before the Decayed Brigade was the Decayed Brigade. Does that make sense? The first year of Scare LA, there was a spider show that was, there, and Paul Frechette, also known as Spaz, he gave me a call, and he was like, hey, like, Greg, we want you to do the show with us, like, it's this new thing called, like, Scare LA, and, so the production team was called Scream Team Productions, and we were not sliders, we were sliding under Scream Team Productions, and it was, like, thrown together, like, trying to, like, throw on a slider show that was, like, choreographed, and it was super weird, and, the following year, we made the Decayed Brigade, and Scare LA was a lot bigger and a lot more predominant, and, the Decayed Brigade it's been crazy since. It's been wild to see it from the start, and I don't know, it's kind of cool, like, to be there from the start and see how big we are, and it's so interesting, like, I'm humbled by it, like, for sure. So I would have never thought 7 years ago I would be doing this. That's
so cool to be doing that, being one of the founding members of something that, the founding members of the slider generation of Ghost Town were also a part of.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
I mean, I wouldn't consider myself a founding member because I put it, like, Paul Frechette was, like, the one who put it, like, together, and, like, he, like, ran the show and told us when to be at rehearsals, and, like, he used to be crazy. He'd be like, if you miss 2, you're not doing the show. So, like, everyone was there, and, yeah, it's been crazy. And I remember, like, getting a message from him, and he was like, check your group thing on Facebook, and I was like, the Decayed Brigade, like, what is this? Actually, no, that's funny. The way that the Decayed Brigade name was, we were spitballing a name, because we needed a name for the show, that year 2012. What was that, 2014? 2014 when we made it.
13, I think.
Was that 13?
I think it was 13, because wasn't this past season your guys' 4th doing shows? Yeah.
Yeah, it was, 13. So, yeah, it was, dang, it's been 4 years, dang, that's crazy. So, I remember we were sitting there, and we were trying to figure out a name at practice, and we were like, man, whatever, like, we got the show down, like, we'll start posting names on Facebook. So we're in this weird group, and it was just everyone who's, like, on the team, and they were like, Slider Crew, Monster this, Monster that, and then Steve Warmbier, also known as Steve-O, threw out the name Decayed Brigade, and everyone was like, whoa, that's it, that's the name, It was like,
a light bulb
just went off.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's a great name. Let's talk about the Queen Mary show. So they were talking about doing something together back when I worked Haunt. So this, it goes back a long time. So this event was, 10, 11 years in the making at least. Mm-hmm. How was it? How was it being a part of the show? What was it like?
Man, it was, honestly, it's like a loss for words still. It was such a cool, like how you said, like, it was in a year, like, in the making for a long time. And just to be, like, asked and invited to do that event was insane. And, kudos to Queen Mary, and their production team was so nice, so awesome. Like, they're incredible. And that night was, it's like a loss for words. That's the night I'll never forget. It was crazy seeing the Haunt community come out on a Wednesday at the end of October and, sell out the event. Yeah,
that was insane. Like, I was not expecting how many people were there. We showed up pretty early and we got the last 2 parking spots in the parking lot out in front of the Queen Mary. And we were there pretty early, before they were open to the public. And as soon as I saw how busy it was, I was like, man, it's going to be a packed house.
Yeah, like when I heard, because we were out there scaring and they gave us a rundown and everything like that. And, when we went back to the back and they were like, man, people were getting put on like school buses from the Long Beach courthouse just to come to the event. And I was like, what are you guys talking about? Like, that's really far. And they're like, yeah, like people are like coming, like getting like shipped in, like through buses because there's no parking. There's no, and when we were leaving the event, when me and Eric were driving back home, it was like $15 parking. It was like over the bridge and like 7 blocks down, and it was crazy to see.
Yeah.
Like really a look.
That's Long Beach for you. So walk us through the night. How, I guess it'd be as a source of comparison. How did the night go, and then how did that compare to a typical night at Scary Farm?
Well, the Queen Mary night, we got there around 4 o'clock, and, it was really weird to be in makeup so early. So the day before, you did a test run of the floor, and you kind of ran the shows and understood what was going on and learned how their floor is, because it's completely different from any Scary Farm or Decayed Brigade show that we ever done.
Really?
And,
how so?
Met the guys, met their production staff, met all HR and everyone on the makeup team. So we got there, got ready, and we honestly had 2.5 hours to kill. So we kind of messed around, how the Decayed Brigade does,
mm-hmm.
and started throwing balls at each other, like those little plastic balls that you see in a ball pit. So we were throwing them at each other and sliding outside, waxing, and I think we over-waxed the floor because it was just really slick.
Whoops.
And then they kind of gave us this shakedown of what we're doing that night, and we had an hour and a half of free scare, what they called it, and we just roaming streets and scaring each other. But it was so hard to acclimate myself in that atmosphere because it's a giant boat to start off with, and it's in a parking lot essentially. Yeah. And there's fire and there's music, and I'm playing a black and white character when everything's carnival themed and steampunk. So it was super, super weird, but we had a shakedown before the first show, I think at 9:45, and it was cool to hang out with everyone before, and then they did the whole steel wheel thing, and the introduction of the show and introduction of how many people were there to see us, and people flew out from San Francisco just to see that show. I had a couple of buddies fly all the way down just to see the Queen Mary show because they heard it was going to be so big.
Whoa!
And I
yeah.
watched Universal come, and when they were introducing us, it kind of gave me a chill. This is crazy. This is really happening. I'm not ready for this. But the best way to compare it to another night at Haunt, honestly, I can't. It's so different. An average night at Haunt, I get there at 6:30. I stretch out, put my pants on, put my contacts in, and I get my prosthetic on. Then once I put my flannel on, my hat, it's game on. And it's kind of you smell the fog, you're in setting. It's ghost town. I respect Haunt so much. I respect that street zone so much. There's honestly no way. It's that's my home, and this was foreign land.
That's a really interesting thought. You know, everything that you're used to as a monster, everything you've developed in your character. Like, did any of that translate into scaring at Queen Mary?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you can see, like, night and day, how me, Paul, Eric, and Chase, all of our characters are so different than everything else that was there. Like, it was either, like, one of us was too loud, or we were being too creepy, or, like, we were being too fast. You know, it was so hard to adjust, honestly. Like, it was so weird.
Yeah, and the area is a lot more like Carnival. It's not as brightly lit, but they don't really do any fog.
Yeah, and then they have like rock and roll music, like
yeah,
and it was like AC/DC and like Metallica and Slayer, and I'm like, whoa, this is weird.
That's interesting to have a setting like believe it or not, I've never been to Queen Mary. I know it's like a horrible thing being such a fan of the haunted industry, but I've never been there. So it's really hard for me to imagine like a haunt taking place in the present tense, you know, like the stuff that we tend to see is based in some other time frame or based in the future or something. Like it's just straight up today's rock and today's aesthetic. And
yeah, well, the outside is all like, it's basically a carnival. So if you think of like going to the OC Fair, it's kind of the same idea. It's very carnival-like. You know, they have the swing ride there and...
Fun. So do they let you... Like, how much space did you have to run around?
Gave us full range. It was pretty cool, not gonna lie. So, yeah, that's dope.
Was it like a big space, like compared to, like, camps?
I mean, it was basically like, make an L from the entrance, so you make an L, and you go to Spider Alley, and from there you have a giant square. And on the back side of the square, there's fire, then there's darkness, and then there's a ship.
Yeah. It's a pretty big area, yeah.
It's like kind of, if you cut Ghost Town in half, legit. If you cut Ghost Town in half and put it in a square.
That's a pretty decent space. So there's, like, you said that there was Slider Alley. Are sliders only allowed to hit the ground there?
This is kind of a fun fact about there and us. Their street monsters are their sliders, and they have select other characters that will be out in the street zone, like in Queen Mary, but everyone else is a main monster. Like there's no street town unless you are a slider for Queen Mary.
Yeah.
Oh, neat.
And the only other characters are like their main characters, like Graceful Gale and the Captain and those type face characters that are icons.
Yeah, like that's it. I mean, otherwise you don't come face to face like how you do at Knott's or anything like that. They're like universal.
Wow, cool.
Yeah, pretty neat.
Awesome.
But their mazes, there'd be like pretty much nowhere for a slider to operate, so it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, and it's weird. Like over there, they're telling us some like their cast members. They're telling us that they don't have a certification test. If you want to slide in your maze, go ahead and slide. You know, just don't hit anybody. That's what they were kind of telling us. We're like, what? Like that's crazy. That's so unsafe.
Neat.
I wonder what their accident rate is like, because I know Knott's has had a few accidents, either monsters hurting themselves or monsters hurting guests.
Monsters hurting other monsters.
Monsters hurting other monsters.
Jim Ignallo, I'm talking to you, buddy. He's not listening.
So it'd be interesting to see, like, without the certification test and without the training, is there really a difference in injury rate?
I mean, I want to do the same thing, but, you know, I honestly don't know the numbers.
So, from the standpoint of being as pretty much as close to a professional slider, I mean, I guess a haunt monster is a professional slider, but, like, you definitely, know what you're doing. But you've had all this training, and you had to be certified and all this stuff. You've done cross-training. Is there an actual difference in the caliber of sliding that the Decayed Brigade or that Scary Farm Monsters bring to the table that maybe other parks just don't have access to?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I feel like we're a lot more aggressive and more in your face, and we use our area so much. I mean, this is Scary Farm, so like we honestly push the envelope now. This new generation, we're a lot faster, a lot stronger. You can hear it when we slide. Like you can hear us hitting the floor.
Mm-hmm.
You coming for you, and you know the moment you walk through those gates, game's on. You know, like you bought a ticket, you know what you're signing up for.
Mm-hmm.
And compared to the Decayed Brigade, we push the envelope as far as tricks and bond and trusting with each other. Because some of those tricks that we do, I honestly still don't know how we do them or how we don't hurt.
How we don't hurt each other.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, you have to trust this person, they're going to drop at the last second, but they're going to drop low enough so you get over them, or, hey, line up and let's do this 360 while we do a high five, and then, land on our face.
A lot of that comes from being observant, You guys know each other's sliding so well because you've slid together for so long and you've trained together that you can almost predict how someone's going to react if something goes wrong, or how you need to react to avoid somebody because you know how they're going to react to a situation. And I think that helps a lot.
Yeah, very true. But after the whole, compared to parks, a lot of other Southern California parks don't really have sliders, but they focus more on stilt walkers, I noticed, throughout the years. And a good friend of mine, Joey Wilson, who's the Universal stilt walker, he played the Lady of Liberty this year at the Purge.
Oh, cool.
He can outdo probably anyone I've ever seen in stilt. He's a madman, and I love him, and he's the only guy I've ever seen legit go from a standing stilt position, running, to a slide, and get up by himself.
What? That's awesome.
Yeah, it was nuts. And then he can run backwards and all that stuff. So other parks have us beat as far as other aspects for sure.
Yeah, stilt walking is a talent. After doing it for one season, it's definitely once you get it really well. Because there was times where I could add a full run in those things and I'd be fine. I wouldn't be scared of it. I don't think I'd ever be able to do a slide, but that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was nuts. He's the next caliber real deal on some still.
That is so cool. I really want to see that.
So where would you want to see the Decayed Brigade go in the future? What do you think they can do to push the envelope even more?
I feel like the door for our team has been opened, and I feel like the time is now. Honestly, it would be really cool, someday, some way to see the Decayed Brigade in a Cirque du Soleil show. What we do is not natural, and what Cirque du Soleil does is definitely not natural. Mm-hmm. So I feel like it would be a very good blend. Or, I want to see us, kind of teach the nation our ways, honestly. I want to see us go to other theme parks and be like, hey, you guys want to learn how to do this? You guys can put on production value show, too. So it's not just our team, there's more growth.
Yeah, and it's also a good opportunity to see how other people solve that same problem. They take that same skill and maybe apply it in a different way or use different parts of their bodies. Like the Queen Mary monsters, they don't jump prone. They actually just stay upright when they jump. I've never seen anybody jump so many people without putting their hands to the ground.
Yeah.
That is incredible. There's something to be learned all over the place.
Yeah, definitely. Also I want to see our team, it'd be cool to see it in a movie one day. There was Sliders of Ghost Town Origins,
The Sliders of Ghost Town?
Sliders of Ghost Town and
Seasons of Scream?
That was the first one.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Seasons of Scream. And, it would be cool to see it Resident Evil, or, see it in, a crazy horror movie where you're this guy is sliding on his hands and knees.
Did you see the Wonder Woman trailer?
No, I didn't.
There's a part at the very end where she freaking slides.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. You have to check it out. Because when I saw it, I was like, oh my god, Veronica, check this out.
That's so dope. Yeah, then there's another, and then, kind of to put, put it in perspective, V. Neil watched our show. That's huge.
Who did?
V. Neil from, Face Off, and then, the world famous, makeup artist.
Oh.
Yeah. At Scarlet, I know, Joey Fatone from the NSYNC watched it, and he said it was amazing.
Yeah, see, those are well-known famous people people, and it'd be so cool if they can take sliding to, like, you know, to that stature. Like, you know, it's just something that you don't see every day, and that'd be so cool.
That's really, I think there's a lot of opportunity because, like, we're stunt performers.
Yeah.
Technically, you know, not everyone can do what sliders do. And especially not all of those sliders can turn it into an actual marketable performance. So, I mean, those are skills that, I mean, it's akin to, you know, fire breathing, fire spinning, stilt walking. Like, it's a circus act. Like you were saying, like it would fit very well in a Cirque du Soleil show with like ramps and possibly like trapeze where you're spinning around and flip off your pad, you know, flip off the bar and then land on your knees. Like there are a million different things that you can do. It's definitely marketable. And with, you know, music videos being as crazy as they are and, you know, who knows what a feature film or, you know, a student film would use that for. But I mean, it's definitely usable.
So what are some of your favorite haunted attractions besides Scary Farm?
At Scary Farm or like
outside of Scary Farm?
Oh, outside Scary Farm. My favorite haunted attraction. First off, I gotta go with Universal Studios. I'm a huge fan of everything that they do. I know it's the whole nods to Universal. I don't care. Their production value is incredible.
Yeah,
it's
totally.
So cool to be put into a movie or a show. You know.
My favorite thing about that is just walking on the sets that you're never allowed to during normal operating hours, and they're just like, yeah, just hang out here. It's cool.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty neat.
Like a lot of people don't know this one fact about me. My favorite movie is Psycho. Horror movie is Psycho. So to walk on like Bates Motel, like the set, I get giddy like a little girl.
Oh yeah.
But I have to act all cool because you know I don't want to embarrass myself from my friends. And then I'm screaming my head off. I'm like, oh my god! Like this is set.
That's
you
awesome.
know, Queen Mary is one of my favorites too. I know a lot of people, you know, they're like mad about it, but I love it. I think it looks so cool. Finish the Point is really cool too. One of my new favorites is 17th Door. You know,
Really? I haven't. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the first maze to ever make me want to, you know, throw up and almost quit this year, but it was really, really awesome.
Oh, girls. Nothing.
And I think that's, oh no. And I've never been, but I've seen plenty of YouTube videos of Los Angeles Hayride. That looks really cool.
That's interesting.
Yeah. I've heard mixed reviews on it. Some years I guess it's good. Some years people are like, it was okay. But I've heard nothing but great things about their great horror camp out that they do during the summer.
Yeah, I have friends in the past work it, and they say it's awesome, but honestly, I don't know if I can do it for like 8 hours straight like that. Like,
yeah.
I don't know.
That's commitment.
Too much for me.
Yeah.
Did you have anything else you wanted to?
No, I think that's it. Is there anything you want to promote, Greg?
You know, if you haven't seen Pirates of Ghost Town, check it out. It's really cool. It's a really great movie. I have Tales of Ghost Town coming out soon. And if you haven't seen the Decayed Brigade and you have no idea what the Decayed Brigade is, YouTube us. We have also our website, www.decaydbrigadebigcartel.com. And we also have our Instagram, at Decayed Brigade Official. If you guys have no idea what fighting is, you know, YouTube it. And then if you guys do want to see, Seasons of Scream, I believe it's on eBay for about $20 right now. They don't make them anymore, and you know it's a great history of what Not Scary Farm is, and so a lot of people who put in so much heart and dedication before this new generation that everyone knows now. The old generation was full of great people, you know, that kind of it makes me sad that sometimes they get forgotten, but you know. You guys should really check out who the first makeup artists were and what Gary Salisbury did and you know what Craig did back in the day and why we call him the Hawkfather, you know, Seymour, and find out really what Wolfman Jack is and you know how street monsters became street monsters and you know everything like that.
Yeah, it's a great story. I mean, it's the first time that, as far as I know, a theme park started a worldwide industry. And it's interesting that it just kind of happened almost by accident. They were just kind of like, we need something to do. Let's just try putting on a haunt. And now it's something that theme parks around the world do. It's insane.
Yeah, definitely. It's cool. Definitely check one of those out. And if anything, if you guys want to add me on Instagram at GregD619, I have a lot of Disney and haunts footage, and I'm a nerd, so come check it out.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Greg, for being on the show.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for downloading this episode of Tales from the Fog. Please rate and review us on iTunes, and you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Tales from the Fog. Until next time, I'll see you in the fog.